Hey everyone, welcome to the video. This one we are going over my core plays for week 12 of the NFL season on Draftkings. Sorry this video is coming out later than usual, but I mentioned in my showdown video I was considering getting a green screen so I could have a transparent background, and I got a new webcam. So hopefully the video quality is much better. Hopefully everything looks more crisp and clean. So let me know, and before we continue, if you guys could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. I do not have a lot of followers on Twitter, so maybe if we could boost it up a little bit, that would be nice. And if you want access to my spreadsheets I build every single week at the NFL season, you get my cash rankings, my cheat sheet, my projections, the wide receiver versus cornerback data, all the stats you need. It's color-coded. It's nice and neat. Projected ownership, so you know who's going to be chalky, who's not going to be chalky. I just most recently added a Discord benefit on my Patreon, so if you do sign up for whatever, you can get access to my Discord, and you can chat it up with me all day. I used to have Slack chat, but I guess Discord works better with Patreon. I'm new to Discord, so I did create that, though, so if you guys are interested, like I said, links all in the description below, and let's get into the video. So, my number one quarterback of the week, and pretty much every single other person's number one quarterback of the week, it's Matty Ice at 6,700 going up against Tampa Bay. We got the highest Vegas total on the slate at 52, and I gotta say I made a couple of these slideshows like throughout the week, so this number might have changed a little bit. I want to say I saw it at 51 recently, but just know it's the highest total on the slate. The next closest was 48, or 58, 48. In Tampa, they are a pass funnel defense, and I did spell funnel right finally. I've been spelling it with two L's in like every single video. Someone finally told me that's not how you spell it, so thank you. So anyway, Tampa is a pass funnel defense, meaning you throw on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are very good versus the run. Tampa Bay is first DVOA versus the run, so like I said, incredibly difficult to run against, but they are 30th versus the pass. Tampa Bay is giving up 25.9 points per game to quarterbacks, which is second most in the NFL, 303 passing yards per game, 2.5 touchdowns per game, and they have the 6th worst pass coverage grade on PFF. So they are a horrendous pass defense, very good run defense, and Atlanta's going to struggle to run the ball anyway. It's going to look like a pass-heavy attack for them. They don't have a run game whatsoever. They got Brian Hill, Ollison, and I don't even remember the other guy. It's a bad run offense, so they are going to be throwing the ball quite a bit. Matt Ryan's got the weapons to do so. He's got Julio Jones. He's got Calvin Ridley. Unfortunately, he lost Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper would be a tremendous play, but Russell Gage isn't terrible either, so Matt Ryan should have a fantastic day here. 27-point Platinum team total. I have to imagine most of that's coming through the air, so 3 to 4 touchdowns for Matt Ryan. I think that's definitely in the card, so definitely like Matty Ice here. And then we got Baker Mayfield at 5,900 going up against Miami. And just disclaimer, this is a homer pick. I am a huge Browns fan. I've said it a lot. I'm sure you guys know that by now, but I love the Browns. But I promise it's not just because I'm a Browns fan I'm putting them on here. This is a good matchup. And I think this is finally the time that we can play Baker Mayfield. I've been waiting all season to do it. I may have took a stab at him week 1. Did not work out well. It wasn't in my main lineup or anything, but I might have took a stab at a GPP just to get some Browns exposure. It did not work out. They got blown up versus Tennessee. But we have a great matchup, and this stat I got from Jake Trotter on Twitter, just to source my citations there. Over the past 4 games, Baker Mayfield ranks 14th in the NFL in total quarterback rating, 5th in touchdown interception ratio, and his only interception was off a shovel pass versus New England. I don't know if you guys saw that. Nick Chubb kind of stopped, and Baker just, it looked like he handed a defensive lineman the ball. And that, like I said, I got that from Trotter on Twitter, one of the beat reporters. So I thought that was interesting. He's been stepping it up recently. I just saw on Twitter, actually, I want to say was it Field Yates? I don't remember. I think it was someone from ESPN. The longest consecutive passing attempts in a row in the league right now. Baker Mayfield was 3rd without an interception. Then I believe Josh Allen is on there as well. And then I don't remember the other one. I want to say it's Russell Wilson, but I don't think that's correct. But yeah, so Baker Mayfield, he has looked better recently. The Browns have a 27.75 team total this week, which is one of the tops in the league. Miami is giving up 22 points per game to quarterbacks, which is 6th most in the NFL. And they also have the dead last 32nd DVOA ranked versus the pass this season. And Kareem Hunt, he added a new dynamic to this offense, and it has looked good since he has been a part of this offense. He's pretty much been a slot time receiver. He runs the ball as well, but he catch passes out of the backfield, and he also is just kind of like a slot receiver at this point. And he's got good weapons all around. He's got Odell, Jarvis, Hunt, Chubb, and Njoku. I put a question mark because I did make this slideshow on Tuesday. I did not know if he was going to play or not. But he is projected to be active for this game. And Njoku is a talented tight end. Now, he hasn't really put it together, and he shows it in spurts. He's not consistent because he does have a case of the butterfingers. But he's a talented tight end. He was a former first-round pick, so that obviously is going to help out Baker Mayfield. Obviously, an upgrade from Demetrius Harris and Ricky Seals-Jones and Pharaoh Brown. So Njoku adds another dynamic to the offense. So Baker Mayfield, I think he's a really good play 5,900 this week. I'm not sure how I feel about it in cash games because I feel like I'd rather play Nick Chubb in cash games. I don't really love to play a quarterback running back combo that really doesn't correlate well. Kareem Hunt would correlate better with Baker Mayfield, but I'm not really targeting Kareem Hunt in cash games. GPPs, I think that's totally fine. But yeah, Baker Mayfield, I think he's a pretty good option this week, and I have no problem if you want to go with him. And I make one lineup per week, but I might just enter a couple GPPs with some Browns stacks just so I can really enjoy the Browns game. If that's going well, I'm going to be double happy. So we'll see, but definitely think Baker's a pretty good option this week. I also think Carson Wentz, another cheapish quarterback, is a pretty good option this week. He is only 5,600. I originally had Jameis Winston here, but I do have a section at the end of this video I want to talk about him. I think Jameis Winston is fine, but Carson Wentz, he's a little bit cheaper, so I gave him the nod going up against Seattle. And he's not been great this year. This is purely a price and matchup play. There's a lot of low totals on this slate, but this one does feature a 48-point over-under. Like I said, this one was the second highest compared to the Falcons game. And yeah, second highest on the slate. And the Eagles have a 25-point team total. He's priced right around Mason Rudolph, Jeff Driscoll, Daniel Jones, and Sam Darnold. I don't know about you guys, but I feel a little bit more comfortable with Carson Wentz than I do any of those other guys. I know Wentz has been not that great, but I mean, if he's going to be priced around those guys, I would take Carson Wentz every single day of the week, especially over guys like Rudolph. So I like that. And he has only one multiple touchdown game since week 5. So like I said, there is downsides here. He's not like some lock play at 5,600 because he's really cheap and it's Carson Wentz. He's not been that great. Neither has his wide receivers. But it's a decent matchup versus Seattle. They're allowing 21 points per game to quarterbacks, which is 10th at most. And Seattle is also 18th DVOA versus the pass and allowing 285 yards passing per game. And I don't know about you guys. I feel like Carson Wentz can easily get to at least 250 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. I mean, that's not asking for much, and he's only 5,600. And I think there's upside for more there in this game. I think it has sneaky shootout potential, and I think he does make a great cash game quarterback if you can't get up to Matt Ryan. Because I really want to try to get up to Matt Ryan in cash, but if I can't, I think Carson Wentz, you save 1,100, and I think he's another fantastic option. And I mean, he does not need to do much in this matchup, and Seattle's been giving up big games to quarterbacks all year, and 5,600. Hook up with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert a couple of times, I think you're going to be cooking. So Carson Wentz, he makes sense to me this week. Rhymed a little bit, Wentz and sense. Jeff Driscoll, so I didn't even give him a picture because a lot of these guys don't actually have like transparent actual pictures of them. A lot of them are headshots, and in my head, I didn't want to move my head up top. So fortunately, does not get a picture this week, but he's 5,500 versus Washington, and he exploded. I'm not saying he's like he went nuts, but I mean, for Jeff Driscoll, I guess 27 points is nuts. So 27 points last week and 19 points the week prior. Faces off versus Washington, who gave up 26 points and 4 touchdowns to Sam Darnold. Washington, and so that's pretty encouraging. They're allowing 19.3 points per game to quarterbacks, and they are 20th DVOA versus the pass and 9th worst in pass coverage on PFF. Not the best pass defense in the world whatsoever. Another important thing here, and probably the most important thing here, is rushing upside. Because if he did not run the ball, I would have no interest with Jeff Driscoll here. But he gives me some rushing upside. He has 13 carries, 88 yards, and a touchdown on the ground in 2 starts so far this year. So he does offer us a floor, and that gives him some upside as well. He's also got good weapons to throw to. Not like fantastic options like guys like Baker and Matt Ryan do. But he's got Kenny Golladay, and Kenny Golladay is a very good receiver. He only caught 1 pass last week, but it was a really nice catch. What was it, 39 yards? I think was it a post? He caught it like over the guy. It was a really nice catch. He's got Marvin Jones, who's no slouch. TJ Hawkinson exists. It's about as nice as I can get, but not the best options in the world. But Kenny Golladay, very good receiver. Marvin Jones, pretty solid receiver. So Jeff Driscoll, I think he's fine. He should be able to get you the rushing upside. So I do like that quite a bit. Now let's go on to the running back position and my RB1 this week, and it's looking like based off of ownership projections and just looking at other people's content, because I kind of like to gauge who everyone likes, because then you can kind of like figure out some ownership projections, something like that. But Alvin Kamara, he's popping up on pretty much everyone's radar this week. He was in my first look video, and it looks like he was in everyone else's first look video. So Alvin Kamara, he makes a ton of sense this week at 8,200. I personally am a huge Alvin Kamara fan. I honestly think he's the best running back in the NFL. Well, I thought that last year, and then there's some other guys that are pretty darn good. Nick Chubb's up there. CMC, obviously, Christian McCaffrey's up there as well. But I think Christian McCaffrey, Nick Chubb, and Alvin Kamara, obviously Saquon Barkley as well. But I think they are extremely talented. Obviously, that's not a hot take or anything. But Alvin Kamara, just watching him play football, the way he moves, the way he makes cuts, and I don't know, the guy just has amazing balance. That's the thing that really separates Alvin Kamara from the pack, is his balance. It's amazing. I don't know if you guys see those workout videos where he's on the not a medicine ball. I have one of those things. I don't even know what they're called. The big rubber balls. He was like standing on them and catching. I don't know. It was crazy. But anyway, not important. Let's get back onto the video. He's my RB1 in the week, factoring the price and the matchup. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey is going to be everyone's top projected running back from a projection standpoint, which he is mine. I believe I have McCaffrey for 24, 25, but I do have Kamara for, I think, 23, which, 2-point difference. I know that it's just a baseline projection, but I think Alvin Kamara is a much better value this week, and he's got similar upside. He's got 20 targets the past 2 weeks, 18 receptions. That's awesome. 7.25 targets per game, 20% target share, 33% weighted opportunity share. Those numbers are elite for running backs. He's not a workhorse type back. He only gets 12 carries a game, but he is 12th in total touches per game because of the heavy targets he gets, and he's very efficient with his touches. Alvin Kamara touches are worth a lot more than other running backs' touches, because when he gets the ball, he can make big plays happen. And really, what I like is his elite involvement in the passing game, like I said, and the dude is very, very good, like I was saying earlier. And this is also a fantastic matchup. Carolina is 32nd DVOA versus the run. That's dead last. They're also allowing 28.6 points per game to running backs, which is the 5th most. And the Saints have the 2nd best offensive line versus defensive line run blocking matchup of the week. Alvin Kamara, smash play this week. I remember last time he was chalk, he busted versus the Rams, but I think this time he's going to pull through. So Alvin Kamara, I like him a lot this week. Nick Chubb, 8,100, another guy. Like I said, I love Nick Chubb. I know I'm a Browns fan, but I swear the guy is talented. He's not the best receiving back in the world in the slightest, but he's a very, very good pure runner. Browns are 10-point favorites versus Miami this week with a near 28-point total. And I love when my running backs are monster favorites at home, and that plays right into Nick Chubb's skill set. And he's still getting elite volume with Kareem Hunt. Yes, they can coexist. Kareem Hunt is not just going to take over or just completely split the workload. Nick Chubb is still getting plenty of work. He had 27 carries last week playing with the lead versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I assume they do so again although it is the Browns, so it wouldn't surprise me if they screw this up versus Miami. But, if all things go right, they should be playing with the lead here. And on the year, he's gotten 20 carries a game, which he said at least that in 5 straight weeks. He had 20 carries 4 games in a row, then he had the 27 carries last week. On the year, he's averaging 23.8 touches per game, which is 4th, and Miami's 29th DVOA versus the run, allowing 28 points per game to running backs, which is 7th most in the NFL. And Miami is also allowing the most rushing yards per game with an incredibly high 130 rushing yards per game. Nick Chubb, he's a little expensive, so I understand if you don't want to get there in cash games, because I do think the guy next would probably be better for cash games. But Nick Chubb, I think he's an excellent GPP option. You can play him in cash, yes. He doesn't catch many passes, though, especially with Kareem Hunt now back. But if you want to play Nick Chubb in cash, I have no problem with that. He's basically my RB2 this week, just factoring in price and matchup. So definitely like Nick Chubb. Maybe not the best cash game option, but I definitely think he's up there. It's just that he's about like $1,500 more expensive than the next guy, and I do think he's going to be more popular. So let's get into him now. That's going to be Le'Veon Bell at 6,400 versus Oakland. I'm a big Le'Veon Bell fan. I know a lot of people. It seems like everyone's like half and half on the guy. You either like him or you don't. I actually really like him a lot, but he's been horribly efficient this year, only averaging 50 yards rushing and only 3.1 yards per carry, which is awful, like considering Nick Chubb's over 5 yards a carry. So this is a huge difference right there. But he does get nice volume, 21.8 touches per game, which is 7th most. a little bit behind Nick Chubb, but 16.1 rushing attempts per game, which is 10th, and 5.7 targets per game, which is 10th among all running backs, qualified running backs. That doesn't make sense. They'd be qualified anyway, but you guys get it. But anyway, he has had 3 nice games in a row, 20.1 versus Miami, 16.8 versus New York, and 17.2 versus Washington. All pretty good matchups. And he's just too cheap this week for his talent. I know his talent really hasn't shown through versus on the Jets, but the Jets they suck. Last week they looked pretty good though. But he's got the talent, the volume, and the matchup. Oakland is allowing 25.7 points per game to running backs, which is 14th most in the NFL. And there's 22nd DVA versus the run, and he's game script proof. If they fall behind, he's going to be fine. If they get ahead, he'll be fine. So Le'Veon Bell should push for 20-plus touches in this matchup. I would hope he gets into the end zone. He's going to get targets. I like him at 6,400. I think what most people are going to do this week, they're going to start their lineups with Matt Ryan, Alvin Kamara, Le'Veon Bell. And then they're probably going to go with Julio Jones, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I do think that's going to be a very popular setup, the Kamara and Le'Veon Bell combo, which I totally get that. And then Miles Sanders, he's looking like a really good play this week. Just keep an eye on Jordan Howard news, because if he's in, scrap this play. And like I said, I made most of this video on like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So it's looking like Jordan Howard is not going to play. He's still not been cleared for contact, I believe. So it looks like Sanders is going to be the show here. And last week with no Howard, he saw a season-high 85% of the snaps, and he had 13 touches versus New England, which was a very tough matchup, so I wasn't really expecting much out of him. But he had a solid day. He outscored Brian Hill, I'll say that. And Seattle is middle of the road versus running backs, 23 points per game allowing 23 points per game, and their 16th DVOA versus the run. He also sees consistent work in the passing game with 3 targets per game and 30 yards. It's not great, but that's 6 extra points he's been averaging this season, and you can only expect that to expand as they lead back on this offense. So Miles Sanders, as long as Jordan Howard's out, I think he's probably the best option for your flex spot. And I could see a lot of people just going Kamara, Le'Veon Bell, Miles Sanders. And all 3 of those guys, they catch passes. They're going to be the main running back. So I definitely like that trio right there. And then the next running back, I don't think a lot of people are going to agree with me here, but I think Jalen Samuels at 7,200 versus Cincy, I think he's a good play. I know it feels like a lot to pay for someone like Jalen Samuels, and I know Derrick Henry's a little bit cheaper, but I like Jalen Samuels this week. Probably not a cash game play for me, but I do think he's a fine GPP option, especially if he's going to go lower owned, because I believe Derrick Henry will be higher owned for sure. I am going to talk about Derrick Henry in a little bit, so I'm not just throwing him out to the trash. I think he's a fine play this week, but I like Jalen Samuels. I wanted to talk about him because I don't think a lot of people are going to like him this week. I might be wrong, but I think he's fine. James Conner's going to be out, and so is Juju, more than likely. So that's going to open up the offense for some more, I won't say snaps because that Juju doesn't correlate for snaps, but Conner obviously being out definitely helps Jalen Samuels. But I guess Juju being out, yeah, he helps Jalen Samuels as well because he's going to be leaned heavily on in the rushing game and the passing game. We know he's an excellent pass catcher. Cincinnati's giving up 29.1 points per game to running backs, and they're 24th DVOA versus the run. And Samuels is a PPR machine. His last start versus Indianapolis, he had 13 receptions on 13 targets. That's awesome. And we know that's his strong suit, so he offers us a safe floor, and he can get a high ceiling as well. And if he can't get it on the ground, he'll be fine because he can get it going through the air. And they're 6.5 point favorites, and I always like my running backs as favorites. Not at home, but since he is garbage, so I think they'll be fine. Probably going to be a lot of Steelers fans in Cincy anyway. It's not too far of a distance there. So I think Jalen Samuels is fine. And no Juju. Going to open up some more receptions, targets going around. So I think he is fine. And as for wide receivers, yes, you can always play Michael Thomas. But I'm really like Julio Jones this week at 8,000 versus Tampa. I tweeted on Twitter. Tweeted that I think Matt Ryan and Julio Jones might be some good sneaky plays this week. I am kidding. Obviously, they're going to be chalky, and it's for good reason. He's a partial owner of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In 14 games versus them, he has 148 targets, 102 receptions, almost 1,700 yards, and 11 touchdowns. That is amazing. And only 14 games versus Tampa Bay. That's amazing. And they're allowing 49.3 points per game to wide receivers, which is most in the NFL, and they're 30th DVOA versus the pass, allowing over 200 yards to receivers and nearly 2 touchdowns per game. Julio Jones, he is my wide receiver one of the week. He's going to be popular, yes, but if you can try to fit him in, I would definitely try to do so because I think he smashes this week. And then another homer pick maybe. So we got 3 Browns on this video, so you obviously know I'm excited for this week and to talk about all these Browns players. But we got Odell, 7K versus Miami, and this has to be the week he goes off, right? He has to. If he doesn't, I don't know. But the volume is there. 26% target share, 38% market share of the air yards, 66% weighted opportunity share. Just has not amounted to much. Baker and Odell really aren't on the same page. I mean, he's getting the targets, but they just cannot connect. And Odell has had some couple of drops this season. But, I mean, they just have not had the same connection that him and Landry have had. So, but Miami, I don't think they're going to offer much resistance here. He's had double-digit points in all but 2 weeks, though. As bad as Odell has been, he's been in the double digits every single week but 2 so far. I know he's priced up, like, you're not that excited about it, but still, it's not like he's been absolutely goosing you or whatnot. He's been okay, not great, but okay. And the Browns should be able to put up points this week, I'd imagine. And they have a 28-point team total. Miami's 32nd DVOA versus the pass. And I think one of the top stacks this week is Baker with Odell or Landry or both. Then you can run it back with Devontae Parker, who we will talk about in a little bit. But I do like that stack quite a bit this week. So Odell, you can definitely play him, 7K. Julio Jones' teammate, Calvin Ridley. If you can't get all the way up to Julio Jones, man, my neck hurts. I don't know why. But yeah, if you can't get all the way up to Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley at 6,500, I think he's an excellent option as well. He gets a boost in the offense with Mohamed Sanu getting traded and Austin Hooper being out. We saw it last week where he had 8 targets, 8 catches, 143 yards, 1 touchdown, good for 31.8 fantasy points. I did like him last week. He was not a core play for me. He was in the interesting slide that I had secondary interest in. Too bad I didn't have main interest because he went off, but price definitely came up, but deservedly so, and this should be a pass-heavy approach for Atlanta with their non-existent run game at this point, plus Tampa is elite versus the run. And this is the highest total on the slate, and there's many exciting games this week, so look for a lot of people with game stacks of this game, and Ridley will definitely be a part of them. Should be a little bit lower owned than Julio Jones, but I think he's a fine option, and I do expect him to have some ownership as well. So Calvin Ridley, you can fire him up with confidence. Then Devontae Parker, 5,200. I already hinted at him a little bit ago. I was talking about Odell. He's had at least 11 points in every single game since week 4. He's been very solid, very, very solid. And he's had some good games as well, above 17 points. He's averaging 8.5 targets per game since week 7. And they're 10.5 point dogs. So this should be a pass-heavy attack for Miami, which it usually is. I imagine Fitzmagic is just going to sling the ball a whole bunch in this game, and especially when the Bellagio is your RB1. That guy sucks, really, really bad. He is awful. No offense to him. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but the guy is just not good. And Fitzmagic should have time to throw the ball in this one. Parker's a big play guy, 13.5 yards per reception, so that would suit him because Garrett's obviously out after unforeseen circumstances happened. And Larry Ogunjobi, he got the suspension because he knocked Mason Rudolph down during that scuffle. And then Olivier Vernon is questionable. He has a shot to play, so we will see, but he's still questionable, so not sure. So I really only have Sheldon Richardson as a sure thing right now on the defensive line. So he should have time to throw because they are going to lose their pass rush. And the Browns have been tough through the air this season, though. 8th versus wide receivers, 13th DVOA versus the pass. But I really don't see anyone else doing anything meaningful on this offense, maybe besides Mike Gesicki. But Devontae Parker, he's going to be the offense here, in my opinion. He's going to have to deal with some Denzel Ward, but I mean, I think he'll be fine. I really don't see the Browns absolutely shutting the guy down. And if they get a big lead, the coverage will be a little bit softer. They'll be dropping back. So I can see Parker getting some underneath stuff as well and probably connecting on a couple long balls. So the Browns usually make a stupid play or two during the game. So Devontae Parker, 5,200, I think he's a very fine option. And like I said, I think he makes a good game stack with Odell and Baker. And as for the tight ends, not a lot of good tight ends this week. Zach Ertz is the clear tight end one in my opinion. He's 6,000 versus Seattle, and I think he and Wentz make a decently cheap stack this week that you could definitely run back with Lockett, DK Metcalf, or Josh Gordon. Past 2 games, he has 22 targets, 18 receptions, 197 yards, and 1 touchdown. And Seattle is a bottom 10 defense when it comes to guarding the tight end position. They're allowing 14.2 points per game, which is 8th most in the league. And they're allowing... No, I'm sorry, I talked about that. He's getting 8.2 targets per game, which is very good volume for a tight end. 25% target share, 54% weighted opportunity share, 24% market share of the team's air yards. Zach Ertz, if you can afford him, definitely like him, getting him in my lineup, especially if you're going to pair him up with the Carson Wentz. I think that makes a lot of sense. And then if you can't afford Zach Ertz, just go one step down with Dallas Goedert at 3,700 versus Seattle. He's the generic brand version of Zach Ertz. And to be honest, a lot of generic brand foods are not as bad as you think they are. The granola bars, they taste the same as Quaker Oats granola bars. So it's not too bad. Since week 6, he had his points read 9.8, 15.9, 11.2, 7.9, 12.6. Not bad for someone that's in the 3K range. He has 3 touchdowns in that span, 5.6 targets per game. He played 81% of the snaps last week, and that's just not some big jump. He's been in that 70% range, so he's seeing consistent snaps, and he's on the field all the time, and he's a talented tight end. They drafted him very high, and it's a good matchup versus Seattle, like I said. So Dallas Goedert, I think he's a fine option. He's even a cheaper stack than Carson Wentz and Zach Ertz. You can go Carson Wentz and Dallas Goedert as well. Then my last tight end is going to be Vance McDonald at 30. Man, I don't know why my neck hurts so bad. I'm sitting straight, man. But Vance McDonald, 3,500 versus Cincinnati. 21 targets the past 3 weeks. That's surprising. It caught me off guard a little bit when I was running through stats. He's had 7 targets per game the last 3 weeks, and obviously 3 times 7. But Juju's going to be out more than likely, and it's pretty much a touchdown or bust guy, but they're banged up right now. It's the wrong there. I think so. Just to be safe. Sorry. But they are banged up right now, and there's more targets to go around on this offense. And since he has been giving up big games to tight ends, we just saw Mark Andrews have a pretty big game versus them. 2 touchdowns, 59 yards. But Vince McDonald, I think he's a fine cash game option. He's cheap. And to be honest, I hope he does good because I had to pick him up in my season-long league because Travis Kelce is on bye. So I'm hoping for the best for Vince McDonald this week. And then I added this section last week. So these are my other guys on my radar because I don't want to just list. This video would be an hour if I talked about all these guys. So these are just other guys on my radar. I like Jameis Winston at 6,200 versus Atlanta. I know Atlanta's defense has stepped it up recently. But Jameis Winston, he gets the job done. If you play Jameis Winston, don't watch the game because you're going to be extremely mad. You're going to want to leave the room watching him play because it's awful. He's going to make stupid mistakes. He's going to get sacked. He's going to throw the ball places he shouldn't throw the ball. He's going to miss wide open receivers. But at the end of the day, he's going to get you over 20 fantasy points. That's what he does. So Jameis Winston, I don't mind him. It should be a high scoring game. Derrick Henry, 6,900 versus Jacksonville. I expect him to have some ownership, and I do think he's a good play this week. Jacksonville has not been able to stop the run. They got ran all over last week versus the Colts. Marlon Mack led the charge, and then Jonathan Williams, who actually had a good game last night, he had over 100 yards as well. So I think Derrick Henry is a fine play. Doesn't really offer you much pass catching upside, but I think he should be able to get the job done on the ground. It would surprise me if he doesn't get into the end zone. Kareem Hunt, GPP pivot off of Nick Chubb. He's been involved in the passing game, so I do like the floor there, and he's looked good so far this season. So Kareem Hunt, I don't mind that. Probably have to get into the end zone, but I think he can do that. Phillip Lindsay, 5,200 versus Buffalo. They have an excellent pass defense. Not so much for the rushing defense. One of the worst rushing defenses in the league. Phillip Lindsay, he got the majority of the snaps last week. I think he's a fine play. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, both good plays going up against Atlanta. As you can see, I have Mike Evans as the cover guy on this, and I think he's a fine play. I don't really see anyone in the Atlanta defense that can cover him, so he should be able to outbody everyone and should have a bounce-back game. He struggled last week, and so did Chris Godwin. They should be fine. They have not been great versus wide receivers. I know that the Panthers got murdered last week, but DJ Moore still had a pretty good game versus them, so Mike Evans, as much as I like DJ Moore, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are much better players. DJ Chark versus Tennessee, who struggled versus wide receivers recently. I don't mind him. Jarvis Landry, revenge game versus Miami. So if you like a good narrative, you could pivot off of Odell to go with Landry, who I think will be lower owned. Russell Gage, just a cheap Atlanta option versus Tampa Bay. Demaryius Thomas, he's cheap going up against Oakland, and he's been solid. Now, he doesn't do much, but he's very cheap, and he's going up against one of the worst pass defenses in the league. So Demaryius Thomas, I think he would make some sense. And then Tim Patrick is dirt cheap at 3K versus Buffalo. It's a terrible matchup, but he had 8 targets last week. He was on the field quite a bit, and 3K, if you give me a couple targets and catch a few, you should be able to pay off salary, and I'm probably fitting in guys like Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, and Matt Ryan, and Julio Jones. So don't mind Tim Patrick as a pure punt play, but that's going to be it for this video, guys. If it was helpful, remember to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. And I was going to ask a question that you guys should comment in the beginning of this video, but I forgot. But just tell me who you guys' lock of the week is. You are playing him no matter what. I'm pretty sure mine's Kamara right now. We will see. But I think mine's Kamara, so I'm interested in who you guys think yours is. Right, leave you guys with that. Spreadsheets available in the link description below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Let me know if you like the new webcam and the transparent background. I think it looks better.